achieve a 100% closing rate. Please welcome Jay Walmsley.
Hey,
thanks for joining me.
Good. I'm waiting for the applause. It sounded very professional with that, Daniel. Thank you very much.
Well,
Thanks for having me.
Let me do that. Let me know if you can hear the clap.
Yeah, thanks, mate.
Have many different tools. Now, you've had 35 years plus experience in selling. What was the very first product that you sold when you started your sales career?
Oh God! So I left the army at 19. This is back in the UK, and I don't know how many listeners know what happened back there in the late 80s, but we had a Thatcher-inspired credit boom. Where Margaret Thatcher really dropped the rules on borrowing money to do your house up and stuff like that. She was trying to get the economy going. Completely understand the meaning behind it. And I started working for a double glazing company. That was the big thing at the time. Now, if anybody's not from England, double glazing, it's like double pane glass. A lot of houses in England are mainly straight onto the road, and it cuts down the amount of noise. But it also keeps you warm in the winter. You can still use it in hot countries because it keeps you cooler in the summer. Mm-hmm. And because we had this credit boom, everybody was borrowing money to do up their house. And double glazing was an absolute massive thing. And I actually started no sales experience whatsoever. And I was one of these annoying people that came and knocked on your door to see if you would like a free quote on double glazing. And, when we started off, it was a relatively new thing. And we did really, really well. What actually happened one day, and this is about 3 months in, one of the sales reps couldn't make the appointments. And he said, can you go and do this sales presentation? I've got no sales training, but, I read about it. I wanted to know enough about it. And I went and I sold my first lead. And I went, oh my God. And I realized how much money I could earn being a salesperson because everybody was just throwing money. There was very much a mentality of keeping up with the Joneses, where people buy to resolve a pain point in their life. They need something, or more to the point, especially in that time, people wanted to keep up with the Joneses. So if John next door bought a brand new BMW, you went and bought a brand new Mercedes just to try and keep up or look better. And because everybody could borrow money so easily at such a low interest rate, everybody was doing their houses up. So you could walk into a house and pretty much be guaranteed the sale because next door had just had their double glazing done and nobody wanted to be the poor-looking house on the best street. So that's how it got into sales. And then all of a sudden it started getting tighter and prices started to get dropped and credit started to get a little bit harder to acquire. But yeah, that's how I started. And unfortunately, once I left the army, never picked up any form of trade. So I was just one of those sad people that didn't know what to do. So I just kept selling.
My uncle told me when I got into selling that you get into sales because you're depressed. Because you're depressed. And I dropped out of school, and he said, "There's nothing else for you." It was really
become a salesman.
He said the only thing you can do is become a salesman. He said, but you can make it a profession. And I sold real estate, and like you were saying here, people were buying to keep up with the Joneses. I had seen this type of buying behavior in real estate. You'd get one person on the street who decided to upgrade their house. And they'd say, you know what, this was our first home, we're now moving to our second home. And you'd see this chain reaction. So one of our prospecting strategies is what we called 336. And what we knew, because we would track the numbers, if house number 3 on the street came for sale, somebody 3 doors down to the right, 3 doors down to the left, or the 6 houses across the street would come for sale in the next 3 to 6 months. And we knew that. So as soon as we got the listing, we would go and knock on the doors. Hey, it's Daniel. your friendly local real estate agent. The house next door is coming for sale, and I know somebody else on the street is thinking about selling. Is that you? And they'd say, no, that's not me. But the guy next door had a real estate agent out yesterday. That's who I'm looking for. Would you walk me next door and introduce me to Jay? And they'd say, yes. And they'd walk me next door. And that person was either 3 doors down on one side or 6 houses across from the other. And we knew it. And every time we failed to execute on the 336, our competitor, their sign showed up.
Yeah.
And my boss would ask me, did you do your prospecting?
Yeah. We had a similar sort of thing in that in the double glazing. So when you sold a job, you'd always go back when the install was happening, and we had a 5 and 5. Not 5 doors that way, not 5 doors that way. And you'd always get another sale. Yeah, because people would say, John next door is getting it done. Oh, I better get a quote. Great, not a problem. You'd do 3 quotes, you get a sale.
People have logical reasons to justify their purchase, but we also know that people are 100% emotional. And keeping up with the Joneses is purely emotional.
Oh, absolutely.
Reason to purchase. How did you leverage that in a conversation?
Look, I think, when we go back to the days of double glazing, it was relatively simple to do because you knew why you were there. You knew you were there because they wanted to keep up with next door. There was no financial reason. They had no idea. They weren't going to sell. And if they're not going to sell, they don't need to add to the value of the home. It's like in Australia, you want to add to the value. Yeah, you stick a pool in, right? Back there, double glazing really didn't add that much money to the value of the home. So you knew you were already going in on an emotional sale. I think if we fast forward 30 years and look at it, it goes to, look, the reason we're here, how do you get 100% closing rate? And the way that I've always done it, I've always realized I love networking. I like the concept of building a community. Now, one of the last times I was employed was for a company called BBX, which is a trade exchange similar to Bartercard, where people work together using a digital trade credit as opposed to using cash. And when I was their national sales manager, I realized that, look, people want a little bit more than this. So we started to build it as a community, doing networking, take the members out for dinner, get them to meet each other, get them to start working as a community together. What has progressed since then is, yes, I've had leadership roles in many networking events, but then when we set up Be Connected World 5 years ago, I wanted it to be a little bit different than the ones out there. We didn't want it to be about the referrals. You go to BNI and you're actually marked on how many referrals you can give and how many sell. They have a traffic light system. Sorry?
You got to get the green light.
Yeah, exactly. You have the traffic light system, right? And that's great for some people. You've got other networking events that say they don't focus on referrals, but they do. They still have pieces of paper that they want people. It's about the show. That's the emotion sort of thing. What we wanted to do is we wanted to create a community that wanted to work together to help each other. We had a conference last year, and the last line I delivered at the end of the conference is look, we're not a networking group, we're a community, and it's about businesses building business together. The idea of working as part of a community, it's focused on 2 main things that are out there. They've been around for years, but a couple of people really pointed them out. The first thing is Stephen Bartlett, right? We've all heard of Stephen Bartlett, and it was about 2 years ago. I read Diary of a CEO. And the very first chapter, he talks about the 5 buckets. And, you've got to learn it. You've got to teach it. You've got to have the resources. You've got to build the network, and this builds your reputation because that's where the money comes. And it made me realize that I've been doing this for the last 10 years, but nobody's ever explained it to me. I mean, you've got a career in sales. You've been doing stuff that you didn't know why you were doing. It was the old, what is it, unconscious competent, as opposed to you start off and you're incompetent and you don't know why, to eventually the fact you're competent and you don't know why, and you go through the whole horseshoe to do it. So I'd already been doing this, and I looked at it, I thought, well, this is fantastic. Why are we not talking to our community about this and trying to get them to raise their profile? Then I read a book by Sabri Suri, which I don't know how big he is overseas, but in Australia he's pretty big. He's on Shark Tank and stuff like that. He owns a company called King Kong Marketing. And all of the marketing that he does, he never chases the people ready to buy now. Because in any given marketplace, only 3% of people are prepared to make a buying decision today. He markets to the 97%. So when you go and use King Kong Marketing, they don't go, we don't want a call to action. We don't want people to buy today. We want you to become the expert in your field. We will help you do that. And so what's going to happen is when the 97% is ready to buy, they know, like, and trust you, and you're the obvious choice for them to go to. So I combined both of those, and we built a program called the Reputation Loop, and it's basically the 5 Stephen Bartlett cups or buckets, but we added a couple of steps in there. So we still have the learn, right? You've got to be learning every day. You've got to know your industry trends. You've got to be the expert. And if you don't know what you're talking about, you're never going to be the expert. And then you've got to teach it. Yeah, it's a waste of time being the world's best kept secret in real estate if nobody knows that you know everything. You got to pick your resources. So you got to know which platform you're going to go to. So in particular, if you deal with large companies and you're trying to sell to large companies, LinkedIn should be your preferred platform. But if you're dealing with very small micro entrepreneurs, it goes the other way. You got to look at Facebook, right? So you got to pick the correct resources. You got to have the right CRM, webinar software, stuff like that. And then you have to build your network. We've thrown into there an extra step, and that is invite. People, I don't think, realize how important it is to be a super connector. Yeah. It's a phrase that I hate. I hear people call themselves super connectors, and I think, yeah, I just don't like it. But at the end of the day, it's what you need to be. If you're part of a community, you need to bring people into that community, because if you do that and they're successful in that community, you're the one that looks like a legend because you introduce them. You've constantly got to be introduced. The whole concept of LinkedIn is about introductions. There is probably 30, 40 different softwares out there right now that are trying to AI this sort of concept, refer us. A gentleman called Scott Kundal created a product called My Most Trusted that sits on top of LinkedIn as an extension. Does a similar sort of thing, right? So everybody's trying to do this. It's definitely the way to go, but I don't think people understand it. So you become that super connector. You follow those steps, and your reputation bucket will fill. And it's only when that bucket is full that you are going to get business. The 7th step, because we call it a loop, is you've got to do it again. All right. We see people in business all the time. Oh yeah, look, I've been to this networking event for 3 months and I haven't got a lead. So you got to keep going. People expect to be able to walk into any form of community or networking event and get results in 90 days. You and I, we've been in the industry for so long. How long have you got to nurture a client? How long have you got to be the expert? It's a lot longer than 90 days. Yeah. So yeah, and you've got to do it. And those, if you were still in real estate, those clients would still keep coming back to you. Yeah. And people forget that. There's too many business owners out there at the moment desperately chasing, we call them hunters, sharks, and they're going into networking events. I've got a special, no, your 60 seconds is about who you are, what you do, and why, and who you'd like to be referred to. But don't give them a special offer, because people just back off. So we teach the reputation loop to what we call effectively fish from your own pond. Yeah. Don't go chasing, build a pond. And every now and again, you throw the hook in, you'll come up with a bit of a call to action. People will jump your way. But if you're perceived to be the expert in your pond, people will always come to you, so that by the time you actually have an appointment to sell your product, what do you think your closing rate is?
100%.
100%, because they've already made that emotional decision that they know you, they like you, they trust you. They wouldn't come to you if they weren't going to make that buying decision on the spot. Yeah. So that's that's a very broad terminology of how to get 100% closing rate. But if it's not going to work if you're going to run Facebook ads and stuff like that. But if you build your own community, and it takes time, it's taken me 10 years to get to this point that I realized that this is what we need to be doing. But with Be Connected, well, we've been around for 5 years. We've now got over 300 members. Our average time it's over 2 years, which is above industry standard. Our churn rate is above industry standard. Our engagement rate is above industry standard, because that's how we work. We work on the fact that you're not here for a sale today. You're here for 97 sales over the next couple of years. Does that make sense?
Well, I think about 3 things that we have to do in today's market to get a client. And I'm not talking about a customer. Customer might be somebody who just buys once and never buys again. But a client is somebody who comes to you for advice. They come to you for education, and they come to you to get a return on their investment. And so as looking for clients, I prefer to look for clients, as you're mentioning here. There's 3 things that I see that overlap with what you're doing. Is I do a lot of educational selling. So my people who buy my products might be following my education, like the books, for 5, 10 or 15 years. And once they feel that they've learned something, they're more willing to reach out for a consultation. Yeah.
Absolutely. Look, just for anybody that's watching on YouTube, I've had these books for 6 years. Yeah, these are a couple of Daniel's books from 6 years ago. I still have them. So, and that's about raising your profile, Daniel.
Yeah. Well, I learned writing books I never wanted to become a bestseller. I didn't want to say I'm an Amazon bestseller or I got a New York Times bestseller. All I wanted to do was write a book for somebody who would read it and get value. And I learned that back in 2013. I was doing webinars, and the process of the webinar was to drive cold traffic to a webinar to make a sale. But I realized that you needed so much more in place than just a webinar. And that's the dream that I've been sold. And I watched the numbers, 1,500 registrations, nobody showing up. 500 registrations, 10 people show up, 9 people drop off. 1 person's just forgot to turn off the internet. And I took that content and I put it into books. And as soon as I put it into a book, I started to meet business people and say, you're in business, you've got to make sales. Here's some ideas that have been working for me and my clients. And I'd give them a book. And each book generated me about 4 clients worth about $25,000 each. And so a book to me was worth $100,000. And I thought, that's a much better way to do it. Because after they've read the book, like you're talking about fishing, they're going to come to my pond. And they're going to say, Daniel, I've read the book. Can you help me? And I think those are important. So what you're doing here to get 100% closing rate and all the other things that lay beneath the surface are so important. I don't like rejection. I don't want to talk to 100 people who aren't going to buy. I'd rather wait patiently and speak to 1 person who's ready to go today.
Absolutely. One of the ethos that I've always said to I mean, we got 300 members, but somebody turned, how many members do you want? I said, well, I could have 1,000 members, but if they don't engage, they're a waste of time. I'd sooner have 100 that are engaged and bringing more people in. So it's not just about how many connections you've got; it's about that quality. Writing books. I'll zoom over here. Give me a sec, and we come back. I've just written number 9. And look again, like I don't want to be a $1 million bestseller. It's not where I want to go. The only one we've ever put on market is that one. We've sold about 5,000 copies of that. The rest we actually give away to our members. And we take the content of those books and we actually turn them into courses and we turn them into evergreen webinars so that we're constantly giving out the exact same message from whatever platform we're choosing. Yeah, books. We've got a conference coming up in October up on the Gold Coast, and we've actually it's called Connect and Protect, and it's about first day is how do you connect, how do you raise your profile. Second, it's all legal stuff. How do you lock people in? But on that first day, one of the keynote speakers that we actually have is a lady that teaches people how to self-publish, because to me, writing a book is going to be your biggest single influence. Yeah. You write that book. My first book basically took 30 years to write. It's 30 years worth of experience. But then I took that book and I turned it into a course, and then I ran all that through AI and went, give me something new based along these lines. And it took core content out of the first book, created my second book, did the same, created. So all the other books that we give away are all add-ons from the original book. So it only takes me a month to write a new one, as I say, 30 years of experience in the first one. But I would say the first book that we did, the How to Be Connected book, that has been the core thing over the last 3 years that has driven what we've done and got us to the point that we can be at that 100% closing rate. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that is the foundation. It's like, to us, it's like a company constitution. This is who we are. This is what we do. And everything that we put out there revolves around this. And the technology that's out there today, that you can take that first book that you write and you can create your courses, you can create your webinars, you can create your communities. It's all powered by AI to build it. And that's where you bring the AI in to do that, not talk to your customers, but to actually do that part, not get stuck in the weeds of your own business so you can focus on doing podcasts like I'm doing with you to raise the profile, doing your own videos. So a book, to me, any business owner that's in that coaching, consultant, even actually most business owners should have a book.
Well, every product business to scale has to become a service business.
Absolutely.
Every service business to scale has to become a product business. So either way, you've got to do it.
You do. So I think, you were, when I showed you the books before, you were, you've got that. Yeah. I don't throw any books away. I absolutely love books. One of the biggest things I love to do, I subscribe to any email that comes through, download my ebook. I do it, and then I run it through ChatGPT. Well, we use Gemini, but I'll use ChatGPT. I run it through there and give me the main points. And then I go, actually, this is a book I want to read. And this is all part of that learn process we're talking about in the reputation loop. And then I go, okay, well, what I've just learned here, where can we now implement that in the reputation loop to make a better value proposition for our clients and to maintain that 100% closing rate?
I don't like to write, and that's okay. And there's a lot of
people
out there
who does
like to write, and they try to write the first chapter in the book and they get writer's block. So don't write a book. Get on a podcast. It's like what we're doing now. I did a really good podcast with a consultant in Australia, and we made about an hour and a half of content. And I said to her, Tony, let's take this content and let's put it in a book.
Yep.
Let's put you and I on the front cover. We'll break it down. We'll turn it into a PDF, and we'll give it to each of our customers. An hour and a half of content, wrote what's called a monograph. And a monograph is like a 3-chapter book. And I started to give it to my customers, and they went, Daniel, we didn't realize that you knew this stuff. Now, they didn't buy the book. They read the book. They remembered why they hired me, and they stayed longer. And that's how easy it is. It's like you and I, we can take this content today and make it a book. We can put 1 chapter in the book. And if we want to write a really long book, we can do 12 podcasts. We don't have to write a word. And in 12 hours, we've got a book. And I think
absolutely
today, more importantly than ever before, is if we are on a podcast, the language is very different. And if we can write the way that we speak, when people read the book, it's like having Daniel and Jay in their ear.
Absolutely.
And it's simple English. There's not too much fluff. It's just the content. This is what you need to know without all the other shit. Because in a book, 70% of what's in a book is just filler content. It's just bullshit stuff that adds no value. And that's why people use Gemini like you do. Condense it down. Tell me what's important.
Yeah.
So just give people the more condensed version. One book to solve one problem. Let's speak it. I think that's simple to do. Anybody can do that.
Yeah. I know, it just amazes me how many people don't do it. You look at the really successful. I'll pick on coaches, right? Because we know the successful coaches, they are content engines. I was watching a podcast with Alex Hormozi. All right. Most people know who Alex is. And I know that Tony Robbins does a similar thing. Alex Hormozi will sit there and do 8 hours of recording just in front of the computer in one day. And then his team will go off and make 30,000 pieces of content just with that one thing that he's actually done. And then, he's got the squillions of bucks to be able to do his last book launch. I think he sold 1 million books before it even launched because he used the right content. And I think the book was actually all part of what the content was all about. So it just creates this massive loop of reselling your own content round and round again. And one of the things I speak to a lot of people, because we get different sorts of businesses coming in to be connected. We get I've got to be careful how I word this in case any of them listening, right? We get serious business owners, we get entrepreneurs, hobbyists that are trying to get to that point that they can quit their job, get their business to the point that it's pulling 100K so they can walk out on their career. And the amount of people that don't keep their content. And I think, how dumb are you? You've just done all these podcasts over the last 12 months. You've written these reports, and you don't have them in one central vault. And that's your knowledge base. That's everything that you are. That's your book. You can run that through AI and come up with the basic of the book. I mean, obviously, you've got to rewrite it in your own language. But people don't do it. They don't document everything that they do. I mean, we're at the point now, we've actually got 19 members on our team trying to run our company. And the reason we managed to scale so quickly is we documented everything that we did. Yeah, every time we've already got the SOP, because every time I went, I better record this, boom, 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 boom. People don't seem to understand that everything you do is what's going to make you who you are. So if you want people to know you're the expert, everything you do needs to be recorded and stored. You might never use it again. Yeah. But a perfect example, I did a podcast about 7 years ago it was in the height of COVID. It was 5 years ago, the height of COVID. And it was about people putting dumb crap up on Facebook. The podcast was called Look Before You Like, because of the amount of people that just automatically go through and like things. And so I did a podcast with BBX about how stupid that is. You're cutting off the marketplace. Even though it's Facebook, you've still got to be very, very, very careful. With everything that's going on in the world right now, I put it back up as a podcast, and we had 3,000 people listen to it in the first 24 hours. Because it's apt again. Everything comes around in circles. So keep everything that you've got. Always keep putting it out there, because it will come back up again eventually.
So important. When it comes to selling books, there's a bit of a secret in the industry that a lot of people don't know yet, but I want to share it because it helps us normalize our results. People have heard of Gary Vee, and they look at Gary Vee and they say he's got millions of views on social media. He's a New York best-selling author. They look at people like Jack Canfield, who wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul, and they look on the front cover and it says 1 million copies sold. It's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. If you want to hire Gary Vee as a speaker to speak to your stadium, as part of the speaking deal, you have to accept 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 copies of his books.
Yeah.
He hasn't sold them. They're given away. Like Alex Hormozy, I respect what he does. The majority of his books were given away.
Yeah.
It's not a New York Times bestseller. It's not even worthy of a Guinness record. It was a giveaway.
Yeah.
Chicken Soup for the Soul. On the front cover, it says 1 million copies sold. There was a think tank. And in the think tank, they sat around the boardroom table and they said, how can we sell 1 million copies? And everybody come to the conclusion that it was impossible to sell 1 million copies. My friend walked into the boardroom and he said, have you heard of Occam's razor? And they said, what's Occam's razor? He said, the simplest way is often the best. And my friend gave them the strategy to sell 1 million copies.
Yeah.
And he said, here's what you do. You go and find a big business that already has 1 million copies. And you say to them, I have a gift for you to give to your customers this year. It's a book. It normally sells for $10 US. We're going to sell it to you for $1. They sold 1 million copies of the book to one company. And then they printed across the front 1 million copies sold. All of it is an illusion. But the important part is this. Even if you write one book and you get it into the hand of the right customer, you'll get 100% closing rate and they will love every word in the book. You don't have to be a New York Times bestseller to have a successful book. So, you've just got to get it in the right hand of 5 or 10 people. That's it.
I think you've got, look, marketing, right? You and I got a lot of experience in marketing and it's all crap. Everything out there is absolute bull. And here's a perfect example. I was in a conversation with a client the other day and, they went, I've written a book, but like, I'm not really a published author, am I? I went, how many copies have you sold? They went, 1. You're a published author. Somebody has physically paid you for your book. You are now a published author. And they went, I never thought of it like that. So that's the whole marketing industry. Yeah. You can write an ebook and sell it for 99 cents. And if one person buys it, you can now legally call yourself a published author. You've got to love how marketing works.
All the way down in this niche category.
Yeah.
Where you get the toenails of shaved golden retrievers who are 9 years old, who grow up in Taiwan, but were born in Tainan, and the dog was 35 kilos.
Yeah. You sell one copy, you're the bestseller, mate.
One copy for 99 cents, purchased by your mother, Amazon bestseller.
Yeah.
It's a hoax. And that doesn't work. People are smart, especially Aussies.
Yeah. Yes.
Aussies and British, they have a bullshit meter, and it's always on the red line. They're always sussing people for bullshit. And they look at you and go, you're not a best-selling author. You're a self-published author, and that's okay. Yeah. I'd rather you say that you're self-published than to try to sell me this bullshit that you're a New York Times bestseller. Yeah. And I know everybody in that stadium got a copy of your book for fucking free.
Yeah. So, but there's still people out there fall for it, Daniel. That's the problem.
Well, you and I, Jay, we grew up in a meritocracy. We grew up in a world where we got rewarded for producing results.
Yes.
Output. People today think they can get rewarded for input. They say to the boss, well, I've been here for 8 hours a day. Well, what have you done for 8 hours a day? Did you pick up the phone? Did you go out and visit a customer? Because there's no customers here in the office. What did you do? But as salespeople, you're only paid on getting results, and you can't fake results. And if you get the result, you're allowed to have a bragging right. I am Australian champion athlete. I'm an extreme games competitor. I'm a 3-time state champion athlete. And as an athlete, you either win or you don't. People don't remember who came second.
First place loser, mate. First place loser is second place.
Exactly. You're the first loser. Nobody remembers the losers.
Yeah.
And it's like in business. We can't have any illusion. There is no prize for second place. You acquire the customer or you don't. You acquire the customer and you get paid or you don't. You write a book or you don't. And if you don't write the book, you can't expect to get the reward. And even if you go out and say you're a New York Times bestseller and you didn't get it, Aussies and Brits are going to call you out on it.
Yeah, always.
But if you have done it, people will respect it. And when it comes back to that 100% closing ratio, it's one of those things that cause people to buy. I've read your book. I've met you in person.
It does.
I've listened to you on a podcast. It's the same message. It's the same person. It builds trust. It builds a relationship. And at the right time, they have to make a choice. Well, I can choose this person over here who I don't know, who might be cheaper, but they're high risk. This person over here, I've followed them for years. They're high priced and low risk.
Mm-hmm.
What don't I want? I don't want risk.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll spend the extra money and I'll take what's proven and guaranteed.
Yeah.
Peace of mind.
Yeah. I'll tell you who did this whole, and again, this is everything we've built in the reputation loop. Look, don't reinvent the wheel. All right. Just take something that somebody else has done and make it better. One of the people that I realized when we came up with the reputation loop was exceptional at this, and you'd know this bloke, Brad Sugars. Okay, so action coach. Now, I was working as a BDM this 15 years ago for an action coach, and I actually met him at a BNI. And I remember saying to him one day, you have been through all 30 people in this room, and you have helped every single one of these people, and you have not billed them. Why? And he said, because one of those people will turn into a $5,000 a month client by the end of the year. And it clicked. That's when I went, oh my God, how good is that? And Brad Sugars, I've got Brad Sugars' books over there as well, right? That's what he teaches. You just keep helping and you keep helping so that when people go, I need a coach, they know you're the person to come to, and, constantly help people.
There's a strategy I learned when I first got into business, and it was called a lunch and learn. We call it a webinar today.
Yeah.
But it was a lunch and learn. And I would canvass every suburb in Sydney, and I'd go down the main street and I only looked for real estate agents. And the reason why I looked for real estate agents is real estate agents are always doing ongoing education. Real estate agents have to put fresh food on their plate every week. And they've got to be both a hunter and a farmer, because there's that 3% that you mentioned before that will come onto the market, and you've got to hunt, you've got to compete. But there's also the farming method where the 97% of other people will eventually come on the market in the future. We don't know when the future is. So I knew these people would appreciate education. And I would go door to door and I'd introduce them and I'd say, hello, my name's Daniel. I'm just new in the industry and I have some ideas that could help increase your sales results by 20 to 30% over the next 6 months. Would you be open to having a conversation about that? But before you say yes or no, I'm not asking you to buy anything and there's no cost for what I'm offering. Just want to have a conversation. The guard would go down.
Yep.
They'd say, what have you got for me? I said, well, it's called a lunch and learn. I'd like to come in and share 3 to 5 really good strategies with your team. And here's the deal. You pay for the lunch. I'll cover the cost of the education. And at the end, if you like it, introduce me to one other person you know in real estate. And I would go in there and I would educate 6, 10 or 15 real estate agents. Some of them were begging the boss to say, let's hire Daniel. Other people said, that's not for me. And that was okay. But I left with at least 3 to 4 high quality referrals. They'd pick up the phone and say, let me introduce you to Daniel. I'd go to the next office. I'd do a lunch and learn, a webinar, but I'd do it live. I'd go to the next office. And every week I would pick up a new customer. And some of those people would spend $30,000 in the first year. I have some people who have spent over $500,000. And it started with a free lunch and learn.
Yep.
They paid for the lunch. I covered the education. They worked with me. And after 10 years, they're still working with me.
Yep.
But they got to experience me. And I still believe in the old method is we're not truly selling unless we're nose to nose, belly to belly, knee to knee. We've got to connect with humans. In a high-tech world, we have to be high touch. And once they feel you, they can't deny you. They can deny your Facebook content. They can deny your posts. They can deny your books. But once you're flesh on flesh with people, they can't deny that.
Absolutely.
They can't reject it. You see all these keyboard warriors, motherfucker. they are going to say that to you face to face. When you meet people, they're so nice. But they've been conditioned by these bots on the internet that they don't believe the internet once again. They stop believing in it. So get back to basics like we were doing 30 years ago. Speak to people face to face. You don't have to speak to 1,000 people a week. You just got to speak to one right person a day.
Yep. It's always about finding the right one. Find the right one that wants help.
Like when you were selling double glazed windows. You could have the world's best presentation. You could have the world's best product at the world's best price. You could virtually give it away for free because of the finance. But if you're speaking to somebody who is renting the house,
it's not qualified, is it?
Yeah, it was a great conversation. But if there was one house on the street that didn't have double glazed windows and they wanted to keep up with the Joneses and they could get money for nothing, very good chance that if you have a conversation with them and you find out that they just want to keep up with the Joneses and they don't care about anything else, 100%.
Right. That's what you call a ring in A. It's top price. You're the last one on the street. You don't care about the money. You're paying full price. There's no discount, mate.
In Australia at the moment, and now I've lived out of the country for a good 20 years. Like you're an expatriate, I'm an expatriate. And I'm going to come back to the country this weekend and I'm going to travel across the country for 5 weeks. What do I have to expect in the country these days when it comes to people buying? Are people resistant to offers? Are they open to offers? Are they changing their buying behaviors? What do I have to be aware of in today's market?
I don't think there's a lot of difference, to be honest. One of the things I've noticed about Australians is they don't particularly take to change and they don't change very quickly. Now, with everything that's going on in the world at the moment, first of all, I hope you're getting an electric vehicle to travel across Australia. But most of the people I speak to, there's been the problem is we watch Facebook for the news, right? And there's all this doom and gloom and everything. But to be honest with you, most Australians, it's gone straight over the top of their head. It's very difficult to phase an Aussie. Yeah, they're still very laid back and take things at face value. You know, always saying before the Poms do it, the Australians do it. And the Australians still do it. You know, I mean, I'm talking to 20, 30 business owners every single week, whether I'm presenting at my own events, whether I'm presenting at other people's events. And we've been expecting are we going to see less people in the room because the fuel's gone up to $2.25 a litre? Are we going to see less people because of this reason, because of that reason? And no, on a consumer level, maybe, but on a business-to-business level, nothing's really changed. We still just get on with it. So I don't think you're going to see any massive changes from when you were over here last time. One of the things I do remember when I came over here in 1994 is, you know, because we're going back to the old days, sales tactics, right? I mean, everything's changed now. Everything's sort of caught up because of the internet and the way things work. But it used to be something would come out in the US. It will become norm in the US, and then it get picked up in the UK. Then 5 years later, it will get picked up in Australia. There was this circle, and you could watch it. I was still in contact with a lot of my old friends and family back in England who were, again, all in the sales game, and they would say this new thing's coming through. And then I would see it 4 or 5 years happen in Australia. We're in a different situation now because of the digital world that we're in. It's no longer a 10-year loop of it doing that. It's probably down to a 6 to 12 month loop. But at the end of the day, as we said, Australians, they don't change. Yeah. So whatever tactics you're using, you're saying you're in Taiwan at the moment, right? The sales tactics in Taiwan that back in 1994 might have been 30 years behind the rest of the world, right? Now they're exactly the same. So what you can expect to see in Taiwan is probably exactly the same you'd see in the UK, in Germany, in the US. It'll be the same over here. Unless you go to Newcastle, and I'm going to upset the Novocastrians here. You're from Sydney, you know the Novocastrians, right? Novocastrians are a law unto themselves. There used to be an old sales adage, and it still applies. I've got a lot of Novocastrian friends. They go, if you have a new product you want to bring to market, you take it to Newcastle, New South Wales, because if you can sell it there, you can sell it anywhere. And the funny thing is the Novocastrians are proud of this, and they're still that. McDonald's to this day, when they bring out a new menu item, it always starts at King Street, Newcastle. And if they can sell it at King Street, Newcastle, it gets rolled out around the country. If they can't, it doesn't go, because you can sell it in Newcastle. But the rest of the country, mate, they're normal, right? Now, I've got a number of members and friends that are Novocastrians that are going to go, I can't believe you said that. But I've also got a number of Novocastrians that go, yeah, exactly, you speak about Novocastrians. But they admit it, and it's really weird. They're proud of it. No, we're Novocastrians. They're very, very insular. It's like, I don't know where you lived in Sydney, but the northern beaches of Sydney, very, very similar. They won't cross the Sprit Beach, even if you give them $10,000. Novocastrians won't deal with anybody outside of Newcastle. So, but the rest of Australia, look, I say, are you going to see anything different? No, I don't think you will. We've got meetings, West Coast, East Coast, up and down the East Coast. We've got online, and the feeling I get from all of the meetings that I go to, they're all the same. Yeah, they're all the same. Nothing's changed. I go to a lot of international online meetings, and they're the same as the Australian online meetings. So, yeah, this concept where we used to have many, many years ago, as I said, that flow through, we had the flow through in sales, but we also had that flow through in economics. America sneezes, the world catches a cold, sort of thing. But it would take time. I think the world has become, with the digital age, very instantaneous. And so, whatever the go is in the US right now, it's also the go over here. And I think with the attitude of Australians, they're very resilient. They just ignore it and get on. It's the old, you see this printed on mugs and pillows, keep British and stay calm. That sort of, Australians are the same. Stuff it, keep going. That's the way Australians are. So, yeah, I don't think you're going to see anything different. People are wise enough these days to go, yeah, look, I know there's a problem, but if it's not a problem, I've still got to keep moving, so I'll keep moving anyway.
One of the challenges we see here in Taiwan with this new generation is their levels of emotional intelligence are very low. And they're trying to utilize technology at all stages of the sales process. So they're trying to go really high tech, and it's not working.
No.
And it's not working because when you finally have to have the human interaction, the interaction isn't in alignment with the technological interaction. You meet somebody who doesn't know about their product. They can't communicate the value. They don't ask questions in a logical order and sequence. They haven't been trained to connect what you want and how the product or service works. And what we're seeing is that as soon as there's a human interaction, the whole system falls apart. And And globally, based on my research, and this is things coming out of Stanford and Harvard and the American Institute of Management, they're saying that Generation Z has the lowest level of emotional intelligence. And this is not a reflection on Generation Z. It's a reflection of the generations that have come before them that haven't taught them how to communicate and get along with people. And so we're seeing that the relationship part of the sale is falling apart. And an example of that is I will go and look at a product. I wanted to purchase a car, and I went and had a look at the car. And the first thing the person wanted to do was add me online, which is like WhatsApp. And I said, why do you want to connect with me on WhatsApp so I can stay in contact? Well, I don't want to be contacted. I came here to have a conversation with you. You're here. I don't want to scan your QR code. I want to ask questions. And when we were interacting, even with my wife who speaks the language, the interaction was very low quality. And every time we looked at something and saw something that we liked, we said, we don't like the salesperson. We want to be able to ask our questions and for them to be answered. And so we shopped around, and the person that we ended up buying from was a friend of my mother-in-law's. And she was old school. She was probably in her 60s. She's been selling cars for about 40 years. And she came and picked me up from my house. She said, Daniel, I will come and pick you up.
Yeah.
She picked me up. She took me to the dealership. She walked me around. She said, I know you want an X-Trail. And she just showed me the X-Trails. She said, these are the 3 models. Which one would you like to take for a drive? And I said, well, I want to spend about this amount of money. And she said, well, if that's your price, go for this one. But I also recommend that you look at this one because this one is the last model available for this year. And if you take that one, I can give you about $7,000 worth of bonuses. And she said, have a look at the computer here. I only have one left in the country. And there was total transparency. It wasn't like this fake scarcity. She just showed me. There's one left in the country. I can give it to you with $7,000 worth of bonuses. And I took it immediately. And then the whole way she called me, Daniel, I just want to let you know, the car's arrived. It's being detailed today. It's being serviced tomorrow. She came and picked me up from my house, brought me to the dealership, took me for a drive in the car. I took it home. I've had it for a year. And every time it was due for a service, she personally called me. She said, Daniel, the car's due for a service. I'll come and pick you up. She'd pick me up, would bring the car for service, and then she'd give me a car to go home. And it's just been this constant interaction, not through technology, but through a conversation.
Yeah. There's 2 things I take out of that. And one of those I look at, and you're right? I know you've got a younger child, mine a teenage in the 20s. I've got grandchildren. And yeah, are they emotionally stable? Have they got emotionally? Yes, they do, but they don't like having conversations. My son, who's 25, will be in his bedroom and he will text us something. It's like, you're in the next room, come and have a conversation, but he texts it, right? Or he'll be out and he'll text a question and we'll pick up the phone to ring him and he doesn't answer. So we text back and he'll text back again. It's like, you've got you. And we've raised that generation of doing it. The problem in business, the way that we've got SaaS models and SWOS models and the way the internet works, as soon as you remove that human interaction, it becomes competitive on price. And being competitive on price in any industry is a race to the bottom. Yeah. And you see that's what people are doing. You can get I paid $10,000, right, to when life coaching was the next big thing. And I paid 10 grand to do that and get my certification and the NLP and all that sort of stuff. And now you can get an NLP course for $7 online. And I think without human interaction, how could you actually learn that? How could you give any value? These guys have got the same qualifications as me, and I actually sat there for 3 months in a classroom to be able to do this. So that human interaction, it's critical. You can run a business as a SaaS model. For those people that don't know what SaaS is, software as a service. All right, and this is where there is no human contact whatsoever. You know, I think I was explaining before. I don't know whether we're live at the time, but we have what we call a 48-hour human bridge. Right, we could run our entire business online and never contact a client, but we don't. Right, somebody books in, they must have a personal call 48 hours. Somebody joins or doesn't. They're always going to get those points of contact. And we could run the business without that. But if we did that, our closing rate would drop. And if our closing rate's going to drop, bugger, we need to get more clients in. We're going to have to drop our price. We drop our price, we lose our value, we get less people joining. When less people join, we've got to drop our price. And all of a sudden, we go from charging somebody $1,000 a year, charging $300 a year. We're not even making any money out of it. And by having human interaction, we can maintain the price that we want. I always say to my clients that when you first start in business, you take the clients that you need to keep the lights on. Your first milestone in business is to get to the point that you take the clients that you want. Get your monthly recurring revenue to a point that you can keep the lights on, so you can start saying no to people that want a discount and are difficult clients. And you can only do that with human interaction.
Yep. I was given the same advice when I started my business. Daniel, beggars can't be choosing anybody with a checkbook. And I had to cut my teeth. And I took on people that I didn't necessarily like so much. They weren't my ideal customer, but I had to get customers to learn about who I liked, what I like to work with, and what I don't like. It wasn't a reflection of them. It's just my personal preference. The customer's always fine. I have to choose what's right for me. And then I got to a stage where I could say, I don't want to do that anymore. It was like I went and did life coaching and these things. And at the start of my journey, I took on all life coaching customers. But I got to a stage where I said, I don't want to be a counselor. I want to do this. And I do it. But we've got to start somewhere.
I did the same. I went from life coaching. Now let's get the counselling qualification. I think it's the natural progression, isn't it?
I started having other people's nightmares after that. My nightmares were bad, but now these ones, my gosh. And that's okay. It's never a reflection of the customer. We've got to be true to ourselves. My parents owned a pawnbroking business, and we had a retail front, and there was people that we served, and there was people that we banned from the shop. And our life got better when we turned customers away. No, I don't want to work with you. No, I don't like your attitude. I don't care about the commissions. Fuck off. My peace of mind is more important than a low value customer. Because if we have one low value customer, one troublemaking customer, and there's 30 other high value customers in the shop, the high value customers will not tolerate their behavior. So to protect your 30, you've got to sacrifice one. But once you sacrifice a poor performing customer, your life gets better. I've never met a business owner who says, I feel worse for sacking a low value customer. They say,
isn't it the nicest feeling in the world, sacking a customer because you can? It's like, oh my God, you've always got these customers, the ones that pay the least are the biggest pains in the ass. And when you're finally at that point, you can go, dude, I don't need your money. Take your custom elsewhere. I remember the first time I did it, and this is only about 6 months ago, I just went, I felt so uncomfortable about having that conversation. And then as soon as I hit the button to close their account, I went, oh my God, how good is this? I'm not going to get pestered for 2 hours a day by this person anymore. It's the nicest, as a business owner, as you've scaled, it's the nicest thing to do. Before you get to that point of terminal velocity and critical mass that I've now got enough money to keep the lights on, it's a terrifying fact. It's, oh my God, no, I can't do it. This is going to cost me money, but I've got to keep them on. But when you get to that point that you can sack customers, it's a massive relief, I think.
I was traveling from Australia to Dubai to Manchester, and I was going to run an NLP training in Manchester. And I made a sale when I was in Dubai, and it literally came through at around about 10 p.m. Dubai local time. And I said to my colleague, I said, we just made a sale. This is going to be great, but I don't like the person's last name. And he said, why? I said, sometimes I look at somebody's name and my gut churns. And he said, well, what's the last name? I said, Nut. And he just laughed. Anyway, within about 30 minutes of the sale, I was getting text messages on my personal phone, message after message after message, bomb, 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 bomb. I'm trying to go to sleep, 11 o'clock, bombarded with about 100 messages. And I said to my colleague, I said, open the computer. He said, why? It's 12 o'clock. I said, I told you I didn't like this customer's name. Nut. She's a nut. She's a nutcase. She's crazy. She's been sending me all these messages nonstop. I said, for £2,000, I'm not going to tolerate this because I've got £20,000 clients and they never message me. She has messaged me more than 2 hours than most people will message me in a decade. And I said, this person's a nut. He said, what are we going to do? I said, refund the money. He said, you're crazy. I said, no. We're crazy if we keep the nut.
Yeah.
We want to preserve our peace of mind. And at 12 o'clock, we refunded the money and I messaged the lady and I said, hey, you seem really nice, but I'm not the right coach for you. I can't serve you. I can't give you this level of attention to detail. I can't be answering all these questions on my personal phone. And we've just started the relationship. I am the wrong choice for you. I've refunded your money. And by 12:15, I was sound asleep.
Yep.
But I knew if I had kept her, I would have gone bald. I would have grown more hair on my back and I would have hated my business. But refund the money, move on. Customer selection, so important.
Absolutely. But, you know, you've, like, as we said before, though, you've got to get to that point.
You got to get there. It took me a decade.
Got to get there. Yeah. Yeah. I think
but now I do.
Yeah. So we've been around for 4.5 years. It took me 4 years to be able to sack my first client and go, there's enough money coming in now. I don't need your $100 a month. See you later.
Have the energy, the emotional energy. Our clients need us emotionally. They're on a roller coaster. They need us to be stable. They need us to be a rock for them. And we can't be a rock if we're dealing with the wrong people. I sold the wrong product to the wrong people. And there was a lot of pride in selling the product because they had been to my competitor's training and they were telling me all the bad thing about the competitor. And they said, we want to come and work with you. And I thought for a moment, oh my gosh, I'm going to be your savior. And then I said to them, in my business, anything that we do, it's 100% guaranteed. So if for any reason the product or service doesn't live up to its promise, you just message me and I'll give you a refund, no questions asked. So they went through the training for 364 days. They came to live events, gave me testimonials, introduced their friends, told me how good I was. And then on the 364th day, they sent me a legal letter demanding a total refund because they didn't get anything of their bargain. And I picked up the phone and I said, I've just received a legal letter from you and you're wanting a refund. I said, you have told me how much your life changed, how much your business has grown. You've been to my live events. I have video testimonials. I have written testimonials. Your friends have even come to the events. What's the true problem? They said, well, Daniel, you told me we could get a refund for any reason. I said, well, what's the reason? And she said, well, I'm getting a divorce and I need the money back for the legal fees. And I said, you got to be kidding. Is it April Fool's Day or something? She said, no, you told me for any reason. I said, the reason is to do with the product and service. Totally unreasonable. So I got dragged through NCAT. I had to show up to NCAT. And I had 400 pages of documented evidence. They showed up with a statutory declaration and an opinion. And the adjudicator said to these women, he said, if you would have done this to Mr. Tolson in the local courts, I would have put you in jail for fraud. But because you've done it through NCAT, I have to find a fair solution. So I'm going to ask Mr. Tolson to give you half of the feedback. So you nasty people can never do this to him ever again. Shame on you. And he gave them the best dressing down that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
The two nastiest, filthiest person that I've ever met. And I thought to myself, why did I take the business? Well, I took the business because there was a sense of pride of doing something that my competitor couldn't do. But I made the mistake of choosing the wrong customer. But I look at that experience and I think to myself, it now defines how I select customers. And when I see that pattern and I feel a sense of pride in taking on this work, the alarm bells ring and say, Daniel, recommend them to stay with that person. Let them ruin their life.
And that's, I think that's a common mistake, Daniel, that a lot of small business owners make, that they hear people whinging about their competitors and then assume that there's something wrong with the competitor, when a lot of the time there's something wrong with the customer.
I wish you told me that years ago.
Look, we have a CRM as part of Be Connected World as well, and we get people going, "Oh, yeah, it's a GHL white label. We don't lie. We've just added our own stuff that's in there." And we get people going, "Oh, I'm not happy with who I'm with. I want to come over to you." And a lot of the time we go, "Okay, right. I know we offer a better value service than anybody else, but try and look at what the reason is." We'll take them on, because that is a very much a hands-off sort of thing with the CRM. We've got a full team that backs them up. But you can normally tell whether you're going to have a problem with the client with how quick the other agency releases them. So when you send the request through to transfer the account over, if it happens within 24 hours, you're going to have a problem customer, right? If it takes 7 days, you know they're fighting to keep that customer on. It's somebody bitches about who they're dealing with. Always sit back and go, yeah, is it them or is it you? Because we all know there's very negative people out there.
What a great way to look at it. If they're releasing them within 24 hours.
Yeah. If somebody if your competitor lets them come to you within 24 hours, they're a problem client.
Something to take home, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Jane, where can our guests learn more about what you're doing and when's your next upcoming event?
Okay, so look, best way to probably get hold of us is go to www.beconnectedworld.com. That's our main directory. All the members are on there, all our events on there, podcasts, everything like that. Our events, look, we run fortnightly events around the country. Our next one's actually at the Gold Coast on Friday. But look, everything's on the front page there. I am planning in about 3 months we're building a course. Remember, we keep everything together and build courses from it. We're actually going to take Reputation Loop on the road. So we're going to do a sort of 6-hour masterclass in an auditorium. Bring your laptop. And we're actually going to work through the 7 steps that you need to go through. That's going to be about 3 months away, but I'll definitely keep you updated. We're going to do the road show that we're obviously going to start Central Coast. It's local for me. It's my test marketplace. We'll take it to the Gold Coast because we've got a big following on there, but then we'll be taking it to all the major cities. So probably not Newcastle. I'll see if it works everywhere else first, mate. So, bloody Newcastle, mate. So, so look, that's where we're up to. But yeah, beconnectedworld.com. That's the best place to find anything about us.
Jay, thanks for your time. Thank you so much.
Beautiful. Dan, thank you so much for having me on. It's been great to catch up again after, 6 years?
6 years. You'll see more of me more often. I'll see you soon.